All right, hello, this is Wmpyr back with this book right here. And of course, chapter 1 was on Miyamoto Musashi. It was titled The Real Miyamoto Musashi. Chapter 2 is interesting enough. Let's see. Chapter 2 is The Rivals of Musashi. So very cool that it doesn't just cover Musashi. So the first part is they talk about Shinkage Ryu Kenjutsu. Shinkage Ryu is also called Yagyu Shinkage Ryu, and Yagyu and the Shinkage name is very, very famous over there. Also, you may have heard it in some anime and video game stuff. So you had a general that used this. I'm not going to go into names, but like a military general studied this style. You even had a guy teaching this style to the one of the shoguns. Shogun is the grand warlord of the time. So I guess the bottom line is politically, this was a very powerful style that was powerful and popular in the high-ranking government officials and stuff. So another interesting thing about this style is that they did, you can see armor combat, all right? And from what I noticed, it shows like a bunch of sequences and stuff, which I said is very difficult to gather. But one thing that I noticed was there's a lot of techniques against someone who raises the sword up high. So, in combat, the other person raises the sword up real high so that they're coming down to slash at you. In other words, that is a dominant attack. It is obviously an effective and powerful attack. How do you deal with that? Well, this style does a lot of stuff. To me, looks like they learned how to deal against that. Okay, and they kind of do it by laying low and using structure to off-balance the person doing this. And when the person tries to swing down, they're in a bad position because the other person comes in and they're low and in a stronger type position. The other thing that I noticed is when they come in, like if the opponent has a high guard like this, you also have one, and when you're both swinging down, this style wants to get the inner workings. So you both miss the slash. Well, actually, they miss the slash, you cut them on the hand. So you're getting the inside advantage, right? So once again, this style kind of, to me, focuses on when they have a high stance like this and you come from the inside. It's learning how to like dominate the inside is what I'm seeing in this book, and like there's even some stuff right here where you can kind of see they're actually cutting at the handle of the opponent's sword. They use that as like an entry or almost as a guide point where they're holding the sword like this. So right at the middle, you aim for that and you're cutting through, and then you cut, you attack the other person that way. So I would call this, so if it was boxing, I would say this is like inside boxing technique, And then there is two sword techniques in here. So they call it ryo-to. Ryo is both, and to is swords. So both swords. And they say, okay, Miyamoto Musashi and Hyogo no Suke from Owari Yagyu were good friends. And they were both seeking seeking the secrets of kenjutsu and exchanging knowledge. So one day they said they met, and after they met, Musashi obviously influenced this guy, and so there are 2 sword techniques in the Yagyu Shinkage-ryu, and then on top of that, now there is something called Shinkage-ryu. It's their Nito Yaburi. Nito means 2 swords. Ni is 2 and To is sword. And Yaburi means to defeat. So how to defeat the 2 sword style. So not only do they have the 2 sword style, they also have how to defeat the 2 sword style is part of their technique base. So that just tells me Miyamoto Musashi was a very, very strong influence upon them. Okay. And Miyamoto Musashi was someone that we can say did not have as much of like the proper credentials that this clan did, this Yagyu clan. That's what I'm gathering from this book. But this clan gives Miyamoto Musashi a ton of respect, so much to the point where they have 2 sword techniques in their, in their curriculum, and anti-2 swords technique in their curriculum. So that, to me, that says something. So then, now we go into another rival of Musashi, and that is Toda Ryu's short sword, is what it says. And apparently a lot of this is not very well known, and the author goes on and on about trying to contact them, and what's left of this in modern era, and they just... a lot of this stuff sounds very secretive, and they don't want to reveal, and he said he was unable to really get in touch with them, so he, with his students, had to kind of like try to figure it out themselves based on the scroll work. So they really don't know, is the thing. And what's significant about this guy, Mr. Toda Ryu, is A, it's a short sword. And then B, is this guy is the teacher of Kojuro. Sasaki Kojuro is the guy that is famous for battling Musashi, famous for having the most famous battle with Musashi. I mean, there are other notable people that fought Musashi, but Sasaki Kojuro is the most famous, right? And this guy was Kojuro's teacher. And Sasaki Kojuro is famous for having an extra long sword. This guy is a short sword style, so that's very, very interesting. But either way, it tells you that Sasaki Kojuro and his teacher, they were very, very interested with sword length. They were manipulating that, whether it was short or whether it was extra long. They didn't want to use the normal, right? So I guess they were trying to defeat the standard lengths. So Sasaki Kojuro's style is called Iwao Ryu, which is also called Ganryu, which it's kind of, I don't know. Once again, the kanji, it's not here. It's just in English, so I don't know the kanji. Is Ganryu the same as Ganryu Jima? It was where they fought? I don't know. But it's saying here that there's a lot of stuff about Kojuro that they don't know. They don't even know if he really was the student of the Toda, Mr. What was his name? Toda Ryu. Yeah, Toda Ryu is style, but Mr. Toda, they're not even sure about that. Okay, but what is said right here, and this is something we got to. I definitely have to read to you guys. All right. So there are old writings that say that the duel between Musashi and Kojuro took place on Funashima, which is Ganryu Island, like I said, and that was on the 13th of April, 1612. There was an agreement that it would be a one-on-one duel without the presence of any students. So apparently they both had students. Now, I don't know how many students they had. I don't know if they had like enough to where it's significant, like you have a gang versus a gang warfare that could break out. I don't know. But It says, without the presence of any students. That tells me they kind of had, each one had a big enough following that it could turn into a gang versus gang warfare, and they were worried about that, you know. Despite this, it is said that one of Musashi's students secretly came and hid out of sight. Musashi won the duel and apparently killed Kojiro, but Kojiro didn't die instantly. So Musashi's student dealt the finishing blow. So that's according to this book. We don't know if this really happened, but that's pretty messed up, right? Even if this outcome wasn't according to Musashi's wish, he had broken the agreement, and after the duel, Kojiro's students wanted to kill Musashi, which makes sense, right? Because Musashi broke this agreement, so then Kojiro's students, which, like I said, it sounds like it was at least 10, maybe more, just my guess, they want to kill him. So Musashi fled to Nagato, today's Yamaguchi prefecture, and lived under the protection of an influential man. Wow, I had never heard that before. I had never heard that after the duel, Musashi had to run away, fled, and needed protection. Because if not, Kojiro's students would come after him like assassins. This is a movie. The real life story is more interesting than anything I've seen. It's, once again, you know, I feel like Hollywood and the movies and the stories, you all, you know, but I don't know if this is true. I don't know how much of this is true. Like I said, I saw a documentary a little while back, and they were saying that maybe Musashi's students just jumped Kojiro and took him out. They're saying that is more likely than anything, is according to one documentary. So, you know, we really don't know is the fact, but this author seems to feel like this is what happened. According to this author, he seems pretty confident, and this author, I've been reading this so far, he seems very, very confident in a lot of the things that he's saying, to the point where I would say arrogance. I mean, it's that, I don't know the guy, maybe he's super cool, super nice, but it's just some of the stuff that I've read, like the part where he, and this could also be lost in translation stuff, but the part where he was talking about like Mr. Toda, the Sasaki Kojiro's teacher, that he wasn't able to find information. Like he tried to contact them and they refused to meet. It sounded like he was insulted by that. He was like, I'm trying to write this book and trying to put in all this legit information, and they won't, you know, respond back. So like, you know, and who knows what they're, I don't know, because a lot of this stuff sounds secretive. So it you know, there's like rivalries, politics, jealousy, I don't know, but it seems like all that's in here, in it to this day is what I'm saying, you know, like you see that with like martial arts federation, martial arts politics with big organizations, and this is, as far as in Japan goes, out of all the martial arts they got, the sword is revered, like the author said, very true, sword is super revered. Japan is known for their sword stuff all over the world, so out of all the martial arts, the Japanese sword stuff, the kenjutsu, is extra special in a way. And so with their politics and with these organizations, the stuff, you know, jealousy and all that might be extra more, is what I'm saying. And that stuff could already be bad enough. And so anyway, I don't know. I'm just, this is just my guess. Okay. So then we talk about the next rival, which is this guy right here. And so this guy went up against Musashi with a Roku Saku, which I have no idea what it says, what it is. It says 1.8 meters. Roku Saku Bujutsu. I'm thinking it's Roku Saku, and Roku Saku, I think, is a 6-sided staff. Roku is 6, so that's my guess. I'm not familiar with this stuff. So he fought with a staff, and he so it was a big, like, bow staff or something, and big, heavy, I'm imagining, and he lost to Musashi. After this incident, he became Musashi's student. Sometime later, he retreated to the shrine in the mountains, and he had this advice from a god, a dream, whatever. The sword is used in order to kill, but the stick is not so deadly. So then he switched to a stick. It seems like, so this is a, you know what, I said Roku Saku, but it says Roku Saku, and then here it says four shaku, which it sounds like, whatever the case, and so I could be totally wrong about the shaku, which I said it was a six-sided staff. Maybe the six applies to some kind of length. Okay, so it was a bow staff, and then now he's using a jo. Okay, so that's my interpretation of this right here. So he went from a big, heavy bow staff battling Musashi to now a lighter stick, which would make sense with his dream that it's less deadly, okay? Because with a bow staff and it's heavy enough, you could kill someone. With something like a jo, it's much lighter, smaller, not necessarily, it would be much, much harder to kill someone with that. So he used this and defeated, with new techniques, he won the duel, defeated Musashi. So yes, I had heard about this, that what I remember reading back in the day was this monk used a staff to beat Musashi. And that was like Musashi's only loss. That is what I had heard. But anyway, so right here, that's what this says. So that is a big deal. And so there is stuff in here, and it attempts to show like how it defeated Musashi, or how he was able to defeat Musashi. And the only thing here, like out of all this stuff, there's more pictures, more pictures. The only thing that I could really gather from here that made sense to me, that was real clear, how did he beat Musashi with the staff, right? And this one right here is very clear to me. He punched him, okay? And then he punched him again. So this is what I've been telling you guys with the Escrima sticks, is punch. Like, you could have the actual Escrima stick, but don't forget to actually punch. So practice punching while you're holding the Escrima stick. So when you get in close, don't throw away the stick and change to close range techniques. No, keep the stick and just punch with it, or traditionally it's taught to use this, but I'm saying go ahead and punch with it. So then to me, this is like no stranger. So I was like real happy to see that, and that it's very, I can understand that. That makes sense to me. So next, then they start talking about a spear. Okay, and so now we're talking about a new person. So it's called Hozoin Ryu Takataha Sojutsu. And I think I'm getting both of these mixed up, or maybe in the manga or books and anime and all that. In popular culture about Musashi, they combine the two characters. I don't know. But according to this book, it seems like two different people. So this guy that I already showed you, right? This guy who used the staff to beat Musashi, and now we're talking about a guy who uses a spear, okay? And so that's called Hozoin is this is a temple name. So Hozoin Ryu, that's like saying Shaolin Temple, you know. So the style of Hozoin. And like I said, so it's a Buddhist priest named Hozoin. That's actually his name. Once again, no kanji, so I apologize. I could have been completely wrong with what I just said. I thought it was Hozoin. To me, it sounds like a name of a temple, but they're saying that that's his name. So I'm like, what? But anyway, either way, this guy was a Buddhist priest, and he used the spear. Okay, and basically throughout all this text right here, what they're saying is that he's not sure if Musashi really fought this guy. And he's kind of saying that it doesn't make sense that they did. And he says in here, it's kind of downgrading Musashi in a way, saying that Musashi is not a top-class warrior. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, he's only the most famous swordsman like in history of the planet Earth, or at least in Japan. Where does it say? He says that the spear is the proper war weapon. So a samurai holding a spear signifies like high-level warrior. And Musashi, right here, was a very gifted with the sword, but he wasn't a high-level warrior who could wield a spear. And I'm like, what does that mean? What? So maybe he's saying that Musashi was more like a dual person versus someone that goes to the battlefield. So a battlefield hardened warrior is using spears. Musashi is kind of, I guess, more in a way like the easy way to, it's like comparing special forces, right, who's been to Iraq, been to Afghanistan, versus a UFC fighter. And Musashi would be the UFC fighter, or probably a UFC champ. You know, he's saying it's two different things. I get. That's what I'm getting out of this. And he's saying that, okay, so then they go into the Wmpyr goes in with this, the development and usage of this spear, which we saw earlier in Musashi's style, his ancestral style, the ninja guy, in chapter 1, used this crucifix style of spear, right? So that's pretty much it. And so then they go into some spear combat, and it really doesn't really seem like it has a lot to do with Musashi. And that's the end. So next will be chapter 3. I'll be looking forward to seeing you guys there. Thank you for joining me on this journey. That's it for now. And thank you for viewing. Take care, folks.